all of the key people that have worked with me over the course of several decades, from Mike Kahn and Janusz Kaminski and Rick Carter and Johnny Williams. There's been so many people that have done films with me, and they're very accustomed to seeing my parents showing up on the set to watch, and we all miss them. And in a way, we got to enjoy them and be with them again in a whole different iteration.
Steven drew me a little floor plan of what it was like in the house that he grew up, and then another one for where he was in his middle years in Phoenix, whether the living room's on the right and the dining room's on the left. Those are things that are exactly as they were for him.
Oh, the paintings are all here. Look at that. So cool. Isn't that cool?
His sisters, Anna, and Nancy, and Sue, I think it's really important to acknowledge their contribution to this.
Look at this.
They worked with Rick Carter, remembering every inch of those bedrooms. And a lot of that is Rick and his extraordinary team. It has a beautiful kind of realism and specificity.
I love the color. I love the pink TV, and I love the color of the bedspread.
I first walked onto that set, and it was kind of weird. I mean, how many people get a chance to see the house they were raised in, all their formative years were spent in, totally to the finest detail reconstructed?
All these rooms are bigger than our real house. The movie sets are bigger than actual locations.
A new addition to our group of collaborators was our costume designer, Mark Bridges. He dove really deep into what this time period was, and specifically what Steven's family was like.
The look for Mitzi, I think, is so distinct. So it was a bit intimidating. You know, you're recreating not only images of his mother, but then she had her own unique personal style as well. So that was a challenge to me that I wanted to try to get right for him.
Oh, I love that. Just look at it, right?
Okay, at the end.
At the end, okay.
Yeah, she had such an incredible sense of style. And so, you know, a lot of the things that we did were direct matches to what she wore, because we really couldn't do it better than she did it herself.
You're just looking around the house. We're going to slow the film down frame by frame.
As far as using some of Steven's mother's jewelry, Steven's sister Anne had a couple of pieces. Whenever possible, we throw that in, and there's a little energy there for Michelle, and it's a nice touch too for Steven.
Michelle Williams walked in exact replicas of clothes my mom had worn, her favorite clothes. And Paul walked in looking just like my dad. And I turned around and I looked at Paul and Michelle together. There was a moment where everything sort of went into slow motion. And I didn't see Michelle and I didn't see Paul. I saw Lee and Arnold. I saw my mom and my dad. And I kind of lost it.
Camera! Action!
Don't be scared.
But it will be dark in there, you said. I don't want to go in.
It's fun. All week you've been so excited. Your first ever movie.
I said to Steven, what was the first movie you remember? He said, that's easy, Greatest Show on Earth. And I said, what did you remember most about it? He said, oh, no question, The Trainwreck.
For Steven, the whole idea of a movie, it's presented from two different points of view in the beginning by his parents. One of them, his father, saying it's literally an illusion.
The movie projector tricks us into believing that motionless pictures are moving. A motion picture.
Movies are dreams, doll.
They're really like the two halves of Steven, you know, the way that this married couple sort of balanced each other out and gave room for the other to fully express themselves. And you see that, you know, in their son, the way that they sort of commingle.
You just wait and see. When it's over, you're gonna have the biggest, sloppiest smile on your face.
Most of the movies that we've made, Steve and I, to some degree, this is about emotional journey. You know, I've lit the entire street. We had tons and tens of cars in downtown of Los Angeles. Yeah, there are some white shots here and there, but he was not interested in seeing the scope and the Hollywood production. He was interested in being with the little kid and not to take the audience away from this kid's excitement about seeing a movie.
At one point I said, you know, when did you first get a camera in your hands? And he told me the story that you see at the beginning of the movie. And I thought, well, this is, again, unbelievable.
Sammy, we're going to use Daddy's camera to film it.
This kid, who becomes one of the greatest filmmakers ever, begins with the need to manage a trauma, and that the camera becomes the tool for doing that.
Oh, this dolly was the engine sideways, so we could see the smoke coming out like it's picking up speed.
I really loved the recreation, the 16mm Western. That was a lot of fun, you know, it was fun to do it, you know. That low-tech approach is very much part of high-budget movie making as well. You throw the dust from above the camera, you blow some wind, you know, you shake the carriage, and that's how we do it. It's as simple as that.
Looking up your target, really serious, and slowly crawl forward.
Now look up. It was fun to recreate my 8mm films. I wish I could have recreated my 8mm films to the amateurish degree I shot them at when I was 11 years old. I've learned too much.
Can I see what the convergence looks like?
I wasn't able to resist finding a better place to put the camera in 2021 when I made the movie than where I put the camera in 1961.
Stephen would forget to yell cut because he got so immersed in the scene that he was shooting, and it was no different than Sammy forgetting to yell cut to Angelo as Angelo's walking off.
How far are you gonna let him walk?
Cut! That timed out really well.
It was just really fun to be able to reminisce with an actual 8mm camera in my hand, a Bolex. Because I shot on Bolex, I shot on UMEG, Kodak 8mm 3-turret cameras. I used that camera to make my early movies. I wanted to use all those cameras in the making of this.
That was a big part of it, finding the actual cameras that Sammy should use. Some of them are scripted like, the original Brownie, which is a very basic camera. It's one of the first consumer cameras that people would have and just shoot 8mm film. From there, we go to the Brownie with a turret. Stephen and Tony thought this would show a nice development in Sammy's character as a filmmaker, the ability to change the lenses. After that, Stephen wanted Sammy to be able to zoom in on particular moments during the camping trip. And this larger format Bolex features prominently when Sammy films Escape to Nowhere. He gets another camera from his Uncle Benny.
You drove a hard bargain, kid.
And then last in the film, we have an Aroflex 16S, which is really sort of the camera at the time that semi-professional people and students everywhere coveted.
You hold it on your hip. It looks like you're carrying some kind of ordnance, There we go. And you want it twisted a bit so I can see it's an Aeroflex? That's it. Perfect.
As I'm learning to use this equipment, it's this huge task, and it's this craft that takes so long to do, and it's so challenging, and to get it right, there's such a pride that comes with it, so it was really easy to understand him that way.
I would put it in the front pocket because you never want to sit on it.
The camera's the way in, and it is for a long time. It gives him a sense of identity. It gives him a sense of being.
I can put a reflection, anything I want in the lens, so I've got to get that.
And then it betrays him by showing him more than he wanted to see, and he repudiates it for a while.
This camping trip we shot over the course of a few days is when the footage is captured that ultimately kind of reveals the relationship between Benny and Mitzi.
So that was taken from real trips that they would take, and there's real footage of her in these trees. There's real footage of her playing with the kids. That was super inspiring, and a lot of it we tried to sort of recreate.
And Stephen filmed a lot of that stuff himself. A lot of the 8mm footage and 16mm footage, he was operating the little camera,
Sure. I want a professional to do this now.
It seemed as though it was like a little time machine he was holding, and what he was seeing through the lens was literally bringing him back to these experiences.
Action, guys. This looks perfect. Get on. It's starting.
The camping sequence was a pivotal point in our production. Stephen was seeing this as an adult. He had seen it as a kid and thought it was one thing. I could see something taking shape over those 3 days in the film, in the performances, and in Stephen.
When Mitzi dances in front of the headlights, while this woman is living out something in her life that's very private to her, that casts this kind of powerful spell over these three men. He filmed it, and he just let Michelle dance, and then right when we start to getting ready to make scenes, I want to switch. I want to do her shadows passing over Bert and Benny and Sammy's faces.
We need to get on his reaction right here, please, and then we'll turn around.
Everybody on set fell completely silent. We just watched. And as soon as Stephen said, okay, cut, Ann Spielberg, who was watching, turned to me and says, my brother is a very talented man. Just like, yeah, he really is.
It was good. It was illuminating as well for us, for the film.
One of the most editorially involved scenes was when Sammy discovers his mother's secret while she's playing the piano for her husband.
That was a wonderful scene. When we edit with Stephen, it's not knowledge per se, written knowledge. You got to feel it like an artist, I guess. Pacing and rhythm and balance, you got to feel what's right, what works with the film.
So it's here, boom. runs out. Do.
It was so beautifully conceived and shot with the camera moves and Bert painfully unaware but maybe slightly aware underneath that something was wrong. The way Steven shot it sort of informed where the intercuts went. Steven's an editor. He understands editing better than anybody, I would say. And so that was a really special scene to put together. Somebody who knows editing so well represent what it's like to edit a movie.
When Mitzi falls back in his arms, you could just freeze it a second just by stopping both reels. Then you go backwards a little bit and stop, and then forward a little bit.
He shoots for the editing room. He shoots enough film that you could do almost what you will with the scene, and that's always good.
Just give it a little change, a little notice, without stopping the crank.
But, boy, he took a lot of care with it, because the emotional impact of what happens to him were really huge.
On this film, it was kind of fitting that we were able to use everything from Steven's most humble beginnings of Super 8 all the way through to where he used stagecraft LED screens in the scene where Mitzi is running with the kids towards an actual tornado.
Up ahead somewhere, we'll find it. Mom, it's there, it's there.
How do you create that? Where do you go to film that? And there's ways that we might have done it at different times in the 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts. But now, with ILM's genius, we are able to create the tornado in a controlled situation, particularly when you have all these little kids.
Please, here we go, guys. We end up on the ILM stage, which is this big, sophisticated stage with big screens. It allows you to have a live background that looks very realistic, and you can light with the light that you photographed earlier, meaning you can have endless sunsets or sunrises or evenings, which is very comfortable. And it was a very enlightening experience, and I really appreciate that technology. But really, I'm a bit of a wild pony and like to run around, in the field. Put it right there.
Background, action! So Ditch Day is a thing that the seniors do at the end of the year. They take buses to Santa Cruz Main Beach, and they get to pretend like they're ditching school. Action!
It was definitely a tough day, being on the beach in the heat and running laps on the sand. It was tough for everybody, yeah.
There's so much to film. It's this huge montage, and there are like 180 extras. We're working fast, and there are huge crane shots.
Right, hi.
He's amazing how fast and efficient he's able to work with him and his crew, and how he's able to articulate and express the images in his head to other people to get it done. And I remember it was Ditch Day that I realized he's truly, Steven Spielberg.
We shot Ditch Day in one day out at Zuma Beach, but what we hadn't planned because of scheduling and budgeting was that I was going to shoot the sequence at the prom where they show the film to the same kids that were actually on the Ditch Day shoot. And so we only had a weekend to actually create the Ditch Day film. We had like a day and a half to do that in the editing room. Then we had to project it on the screen. And I didn't want the kids to see it beforehand, so I made sure we never showed it until we got the color temperature right, until Janusz was happy with the lighting.
Checking out this part of the audience.
We got the kind of reactions you can't get when they look at the film over and over and over again. We were able to capture their reactions for the first time, and that was special.
Everybody was being filmed, watching themselves get filmed before. That was really a cool experience because all of the actors got to see that come together really quickly. It was really nice.
I did a lot of research watching some teen films from 1963 and how formal it was, really. I think we forget, since the hippie revolution, how formal everything was, even for teenagers. So I had all my girls wear white gloves, and of course they had sweaters or outerwear for them to wear with their outfit, so. And then of course we stuck to a palette of kind of dirty pastels, but tried not to make it too stylized looking. And it seemed more real to me if the boys just wore their best suit and sport coat rather than everybody being all in white dinner jackets. Like everyone was just in their best outfit to go to the prom.
We sort of realized it the morning that it happened, that the last scene between Bert and Sammy was on Arnold Spielberg's first yahrzeit. It was the first anniversary of his death. And Steven said, "This is my Kaddish."
Dad?
I was definitely aware. In fact, I was nervous about it because it's a big scene. It was a beautiful way for us to get to spend the 1-year anniversary of his passing. I hope it was for Steven.
It's a panic attack your mother gets.
Probably one of my favorite scenes I've gotten to film.
Great day, man.
Okay. Thanks.
I think my favorite shot of the movie is there's a shot of Paul Dano after he sees this picture of me and Michelle kind of having lived together, and it's his head alone in the frame, and there's just like this shadow behind him. It's truly like one of the most incredible shots I've seen in a movie at conveying such a specific emotion. I've seen the movie twice now, and both times when that shot comes up, I'm like, that's why he's the best.
Dad? Dad,
Most of my movies have been a reflection of things that happened to me in my formative years and in my childhood, and so it all comes out in the wash.
You want to make movies, am I right?
Yeah.
How would you like to meet the greatest film director who ever lived?
So Steven had told the story about John Ford to us over the years. It's a great story. It actually happened. We were trying to figure out who was going to play John Ford, and Mark Harris, Tony Kushner's husband, said, "I think it needs to be David Lynch." The second he said it, everybody was like, that is the perfect idea.
Good deal, guys.
And it took some convincing, but ultimately Steven was able to convince him to do it. And I think that that's a memorable 5 minutes of cinema.
They tell me you want to be a picture maker.
Yes, sir, I do.
Why?
Brilliant filmmaker, winner of the most Academy Awards for director, but he was such a bad dresser that even in his obituary in the New York Times, they mentioned his disheveled appearance.
Oh, he's that complicated guy. Very complicated. Yeah.
The last shot of the film, it's a scene where I'm in bed and I'm seeing the shadows of rain on my hand, and it was an insert of that.
That side. I'll slowly turn.
After we got the shot, and he goes, "Great, cut, that's all I need." I got emotional at the end of it. We cried together. I'm very grateful to be a part of that.
I think when you're going to make a super personal movie, you're going to bring in your closest collaborators and the people that you trust the most and that you've relied on and that you've made many, many movies with.
Well, how about how all the stars lined up, especially for Johnny Williams and me? Fabelmans is coming out on the 50th year of our collaborations, starting in 1972.
And it's been just an honor and a thrill to spend 50 years in your company with this man and with all of you and all of your predecessors. Thank you.
And this is Johnny's 90th year on the face of this planet.
Start at 27.
Johnny wrote a couple themes in this which stand out to me to be among some of my most favorite music Johnny's ever written.
When I played the theme for Mother and Child, his reaction was so muted. I looked up at him, he was standing here, and he wouldn't speak. He would start to weep a little bit. And he said, "I didn't expect anything like this." And I was moved that he was so moved. Tonally, it is very clear spaces, very clean and very simple. I was thinking as much about his mother as I was himself as a child.
We try one more.
For us to have been able to come together on this picture, which I would consider to be my most personal movie of my career, this was a wonderful way for Johnny to finish up his career as a film composer. I think everything that a filmmaker puts him or herself into, even if it's somebody else's script and you're just picking the shots and directing the actors, your life is going to come spilling out onto celluloid, whether you like it or not. It just happens to all of us. But in the sense of the Fabelmans, it wasn't about metaphor, it was about memory.
When I saw the film for the first time, I was just overwhelmed. It's Steven's beating heart on a plate. It's like it was just there.
Play it again, please.
Yes, sir.
Go full screen on the B camera.
I think the film goes beyond Steven. I think that's what really good films do. There's something in it for anyone who's had a family, for anyone who's loved the movies, for anybody who's dared to dream big and had a passion.
Next shot, that was perfect.
I'm proud of the joy of the film, and I'm proud of its sorrow as well. I'm proud of Steven that he found a way to make, I think, both of these things very powerful within the film.
That made me very happy.
It was a pretty epic experience making a Steven Spielberg movie, but he was the most incredible actor's director.
Okay, good day, everybody.
All right, thank you, everybody. That completes our photography.
Get out. This is the hardest film I've had to say goodbye to, you know. This movie for me was like a time machine. And to have that time machine suddenly turn off, and now all the memories are locked into place, and they have an order, they're going to be edited together, and that's going to be it. And as Thomas Wolfe said, and he's right, you can't go home again. I realized at the end of shooting The Fabelmans I would never be able to go home again. But at least I've got this to share. Let's shoot this. Very good.